Bia member Promotional. Sa station we are na metie. Enti oso for fidie ne to a ne tie be wate. Data Kennedy Macram.
To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy. It's a disaster. To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy. It's a disaster. You may tomorrow be gone. Tomorrow may
to live
come. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
And not know your purpose is a disaster. In fact, it's a tragedy.
Your soul, and this you will be the difference. And this you will be the answer to the prayers of humanity.
It is also pathetic as well.
You build your soul, and this you will be the difference. And this you will be the
That is to say, to live a purposeless life.
To live
a life with no purpose.
What state of God you are, it's a disaster.
Certainly, it is a tragedy. And not know the state of God that you are.
Your purpose is a tragedy.
Oh, I don't know how to describe that one. Saturday, the 19th of December 2020.
Rainfall, have spin.
And from now onwards,
blows,
as you listen to Fafa
purpose,
with the purpose song,
sunshine, rain,
what then happens is,
have spins, the wind blows.
You know we are on mentoring hour.
Purpose.
And today,
the world is waiting.
The world is waiting on 3 wonderful doctors this morning. The whole world is waiting on these 3 wonderful doctors this morning. Dr. Susan.
Shine.
Hi, Dr. Susan.
Oh, shine.
Dr. Mike.
Shine like a star.
And we have Dr. Inyang as well. I hope I got the name right. So as the world is waiting for these wonderful souls, let's go straight away through the power of technology and talk to our wonderful doctors this morning. I know you all are on mute, so unmute yourself and we do a unison greeting and then we can carry on. Good morning, Dr. Mike. Good morning, Dr. Susan. Good morning, Dr.
Good
Inga.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Papa.
How are we all doing?
We're fine.
Excellent, excellent. In fact, the world is waiting on you now. So I wouldn't waste so much time. I would want you to introduce our awesome 2 doctors who are joining us today on Mentoring Hour. And right after that, we go on the topic for discussion. So, Dr. Susan, let's hear from you.
Yes, so as you know, I'm now quite known to your audience, and I'm very pleased to be here again this morning. And this time I'm coming with I'm presenting my colleagues. I have worked with Dr. Kon. She's going to introduce herself, and Dr. Mike. They'll both introduce themselves, but I have worked with them for years, and particularly I work with Dr. Takon as a neurodevelopmental pediatrician, and then I work with Dr. Mike in what we call the Attention Deficit Hyperactivity or ADHD Executive Committee. And this is part of our Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health. So I have these two very, I would say, very passionate about ADHD, these two doctors, and I'll leave them to introduce themselves to the audience.
In that case, let's begin with Dr. Inyang. Yeah. Quite unfortunate. We cannot hear you. Yeah, we cannot hear you. So that is technology for you. Technology plays up a little bit from time to time. Yeah. But as we wait, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Now we can hear you, so you can carry on.
All right. Good morning. It's lovely to be on your wonderful show. I've been following a lot of the discussions that have been going on, and thank you for hosting us. So I'm Ian Takon. I'm a consultant pediatrician, and as Susan said, we've worked together for several years. I'm also a neurodevelopmental pediatrician, so we are children's doctors that look after children's development and things that can happen as the child is growing up, anything that can happen with their physical development and mental development and behavior that affects them being able to learn properly or fit into the community properly. So we'll be talking about one of those conditions today. And we hope to be able to bring some more light to our community, which is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Inyang. Let's go to Dr. Mike for him to let us know who he is. Hello, Doc.
Thanks for hosting us.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Michael Dr. Ogundele. I'm also a pediatrician, and I've practiced both abroad and in this country for several years. And as Dr. Susan said, we work together. In fact, the three of us work together on the GSF, we call it GSF Forum. That's the National ADHD Network, which is an umbrella, a specialty under the Royal College of Children and Child Health and Pediatrics. And so this is one of the areas where I'm very passionate about. And I hope to be able to have a very nice discussion and useful information to the audience in general.
Now, Dr. Mike, I'll just briefly begin with you. From what you three do, not just you, our previous doctors, Dr. Griselda and Dr. Nevi, from what you all do, am I okay to say you truly love children?
Is that an understatement? Or some people complain when I'm in the clinic. Mm-hmm. Some people complain that I'm having more fun than working.
Truly. Yeah, I just wanted to test the waters and see. Just to be sure. Yes. Because what you all do is exceptional. It's just unique in its sense. I have always admired people who teach in nurseries, receptions, year 1, even year 2, year 3, just from the formative years. I have always admired people who interact with such people. This is because I know one thing for certain. Before the water became ice cube, it was once liquid. And because it was once liquid, we need to be very, very mindful as to how we shape them so that they don't become as hard as the ice cube. And what you people are doing, I love it so much. Thank you very much. We'll go to Dr. Inyang right away. And, I saw the topic ADHD, and although a fortnight ago we spoke about autism, ADHD, I just couldn't figure out what it is. Someone may go to the hospital and be told your daughter or your son has got this. I felt ADHD means something very huge. That is why they possibly cut it short. What is ADHD all about? In fact, I was confused. I just help me to understand.
Thank you, Purpose. So, ADHD, what it means is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So the definition tries to capture what the condition is about. But one of the things we like doing, and I know this happens to three of us, is that whenever we see children in the clinic, it's always good to explain what this means, because when people understand what it means, it helps them to then be able to understand how to help the child. So our brains, the reason why we are all sitting down and being able to talk and know when to talk and what to do is because our brain is telling us what to do at different times. That's why we won't all be talking together at the same time, or we won't suddenly have Dr. Mike standing up and jumping around and when he's supposed to be calm,
Mm-hmm.
or our brains are constantly telling us how to behave. When we're at work, we know even though we don't like somebody, we don't go and punch them in the face because our brain is telling us, no, it's not the right thing to do. So that's how our brains are formed from very early on. It's constantly telling us the right things to do, how to behave. And we know that when children are much younger, they're going through a process. So the brain is maturing, and we have something we call nerves, neurons. And those neurons are like electric wires in the brain. So they are constantly sending messages to different parts of the brain to tell us what to do. Now, the part of the brain that tells us about what to say, when to say it, how to behave, is what we call the frontal lobe. And that part, Papa, is just sitting in front here, just above our eyes. So we have two sides of our brain. So we have the frontal lobe, which is just above there. So if we open our brain, we will see the frontal lobe. That's like the executive director. It's commanding, it's directing, it's telling us how to behave. And the way that brain does that is by neurons, what we call neurons, like I described. They're carrying messages. It's almost like you come into the room and you want light to be there. You turn on the switch. Now, when there's a light bulb, when that light goes on, you know that there is light in the room and you can see. That's how our brain is. That neuron is carrying the messages. And the messages that the neurons are carrying are telling us to stop, when we need to stop, to wait when we need to wait, and to listen as well. Now, if anything happens or that part of the brain is not well formed, or the neurons, remember, the neurons are like electric wires and they are not connecting, then the child doesn't get those messages. So what you get is a child who cannot sit still because they don't know how to sit down and wait. They will jump before, they don't see danger. So they can run into the road because they're not processing the fact that, oh, there's a car coming. I need to stop and think about what I'm going to do. They cannot listen. So you are talking to them again and again, and they're not listening. They can't listen. Their brain is moving too fast for them to even sit down and listen. And they cannot put the brakes on. I always tell them, if you drive a lovely Ferrari car that doesn't have brakes, no matter how beautiful the Ferrari is, it is going to crash if it doesn't have brakes. So we have many of the children who are very smart, but if they cannot put the brakes, which we call impulsivity, then they will do things that will cause them trouble. And that's what will make them maybe hit another child instead of, staying still, or maybe shout at the teacher, or maybe blot out something they're not supposed to say that they will regret later. So what you have is ADHD attention, problems with attention because the neurons are not connecting and carrying the messages well. You've got hyperactivity. The child just cannot sit still, is always active, lively, fidgety. But one of the things we'll talk about today is that not every ADHD child is hyperactive, and my colleagues will also talk about that. And you can have impulsivity. Those are the key things you get, is that a child who is impulsive cannot put the brakes on before doing things, child who is hyperactive, a child who struggles to be attentive. And that's because of the messages going through the brain. Now, there's some key things that help those messages go through. We call them neurotransmitters. They're like little chemicals that the nerves exchange, and they contain the messages. So those neurotransmitters, there's particular ones that are important in ADHD. And when we talk about what we will be talking about today, we will hopefully touch on that. So, in summary, that is what ADHD is: the brain not doing the function as it should be doing properly. And then you get these behaviors in the children. Right?
You are certainly making me love I don't know, biology or science. Yes, I said over here some time ago that if my science teacher had made science as interesting as this, I may possibly have been a pediatrician just like you. But today I'm loving it, and I'm listening to how you were explaining how the brain works, the neurons, how it connects with each other. It amazes me as to how the brain works, and that is a very, very beautiful thing. We will certainly come to that, but let me go to Dr. Mike this time around. And as the topic says, how this affect your child's learning. I know someone who is hyperactive, all over the place, not paying attention, let alone attention to detail. I know it will be quite difficult for such an individual to learn. So take us through gradually how this condition can affect a child's learning in school.
Yeah. All the things that Dr. Inyang has mentioned, she's tried to explain it in a way that everybody will understand. But if you try to summarize them in big words, so you say the main core symptoms of ADHD are hyperactivity or restlessness or fidgetiness, just the tendency to move about, not being able to sit still. That's one. Number two, inattention, inability to concentrate, to focus on anything of interest, even though the same child may be able to focus on a video film that they're interested in, but when it's time to focus on academic work, it becomes a tug of war. So, and then also impulsivity, that is not being able to take all the environment into consideration before making a decision, more or less like acting before thinking. And of course, on top of that, on top of these three core symptoms, there are lots of other associated symptoms you can get with them. So you could have what we call executive function. These are things like organization, planning. That's why most children with ADHD also have poor organizational skills. They just don't have an idea of time. Time looks like a mystery to them. You just do things just by chance, whenever it's time, whenever it happens. And if it doesn't happen, it probably doesn't matter. So things like that, organization, planning, and also there's a lot of emotional disturbances associated with it, which should not be underrated as well, because they have these mood swings up and down, happy now, and within a matter of a second, a person who was smiling with you, loving, affectionate, can suddenly become cross and turn the whole world upside down, just in a second. So things like that also happen. And of course, there are other comorbidities, other diagnoses that could go along with it. That's why ADHD should not be regarded as a mild or minor condition. It requires proper assessment to rule out other possible conditions like learning difficulties, speech delay, epilepsy, autism, of course. There are many other neurodevelopmental conditions, and they tend to go hand in hand together. When you see one of them, you just need to look carefully. You might likely find one or more others. Okay, so when now coming to think about the three core symptoms, thinking like hyperactivity, inattention. When you take children, maybe toddlers at age of 2 or 3, I mean, what do you expect a toddler? How much attention do you expect from a toddler? If you tell the toddler, sit down, do your work, you will think you are joking. Say, oh, let's play more. Do your work, let's play more. So there's a limit to the amount of concentration you will expect from a child like that.
That's right.
So we sometimes allow the children in the early ages, in the preschool age. Sometimes, if these symptoms are not excessive to the point of endangering their own life or endangering the life of other people, we must first say, just let them be children. Maybe this is the only time they have a chance to be children. But by the time they get to school, to reception class, and these symptoms are still there, significantly now beginning to impact on their ability to achieve their maximum potentials in terms of academic work, social interaction, friendships. If all these things are now beginning to be impacted in a functional way, then that's when it becomes mandatory to be treated as a medical condition. I know some people have argued in the past. There's less of argument now. There's less of controversy now, where some people think, oh, maybe ADHD is actually not a diagnosis. Maybe it's just people trying to make a child look naughty, or make them blame the parents, blame the society, or those kind of things. I think there's less and less controversy now because it's becoming more obvious that ADHD is actually a clear diagnosis with clear features, changes in the brain. If you look at the brain, you see changes there. So it is, especially when the symptoms begin to impact on their normal daily functional activities, that's when we begin to take it as a real major diagnosis. And that's where proper assessment will be required and treatment may be required if necessary.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mike. Talking about the brain, it's like talking about the engine room of the body. In fact, when there is someone who once said, if the brain is not functioning very well, the body suffers, right? If the engine room is not in order, we have issues. Now let's go to Dr. Susan. And I can feel and I can see that Dr. Susan is loving some of the comments that are coming from Frimpong Ajare. Frimpong is saying it's a very, very interesting topic. And we have Efua Adazua. I simply call her Swele. A very, very beautiful lady, as you can see from the picture there. She just celebrated her birthday not long ago. She says a very eye-opening discussion. Very, very eye-opening discussion. Keep your comments coming in. We would love to read. We have it's Holuwa Tomiwa Diaro. I think I got it right. Holuwa Tomiwa. Who got it right? Diaro. Efuadazwa, congratulations. Kindly. Oh, my brother. We are serious here. We are not joking. Well, we will never know. As Dr. Inyang was telling us that we have some people who do not know how to differentiate, distinguish between what is going on. They just want, as he was making reference to Dr. Mike. If we suddenly see Dr. Mike standing up and jumping around, then we know there's a problem. Holoma Tomiwa is possibly having a problem. So we wouldn't go because we are serious here indeed. We are very, very serious. Okay. Well.
Oh.
All right, Dr. Susan.
He's using the opportunity, you know. I really, yeah, smart guy, smart guy. He's just using the opportunity, whoever it is.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh. So
Oh dear.
let's get back on track. HDHD, right? Um, it sounds to me that if that is the case, it is not only learning that this particular condition can affect. I'm being tempted to believe that it can even push someone to commit a crime, and then they wouldn't even be knowing exactly what is happening around them. Give us a little bit more insight into this, and then we will move on to how we will be able to handle such individuals as we carry on. So, Dr. Susan, let's hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you also to my colleagues for providing a very insightful explanation about what ADHD is. Before we go into that, we know that what you've said statistically and research has shown very, very much when it comes to crime, representation of people with ADHD in incarcerated throughout the world. We know that the prevalence of ADHD, or well, high rates of ADHD amongst prison inmates. And it's exactly what Dr. Mike and Dr. Takon, Dr. Inyang have already said. It's around the poor impulse control. Their brains are not really communicating with each other as it should. And I love to use the analogy of, imagine, Papa, if you are waiting for your post, your child, you know, your child, your daughter or your son are waiting for a present. So these neurotransmitters are like postmen. Yeah, they are messengers. They send messages from one part of the brain to the other. Postmen do what? Postmen bring you your present. They are messengers. Okay, so your son or your daughter, they're waiting for this beautiful present. They don't know what's in the present. I know, yeah? The present has got a code. It says stop, pay attention, don't be too impulsive. But they don't know this. So they've been waiting for this lovely present expectation. Then one day they see the postman coming in. Sometimes postmen drive in, sometimes they walk in. So the postman is like the brain messenger. They are like the neurotransmitter. They are bringing a message to your daughter so that that message can be seen by your daughter. Yeah. So your daughter is your daughter, and the message, when they see it, is the message that their brain will register. Okay. So they come to your home. The postman comes to your home. And suddenly, if you have a dog, you might not have a cat, you might not have a dog, but let's just imagine you have a dog. The dog barks. Oh, my gracious. The postman is scared of the dog. The postman has a phobia. So what does the postman do? The postman runs away. So, Papa, will your daughter get the message?
No.
No. So in the brain, this is what is happening, yeah? So the postman runs away because something is blocking the postman from coming. And what is that? What blocked the postman?
The dog.
The dog. Mm-hmm. So the dog is the genetics that is preventing the message from coming in, yeah? So what do you do, Papa? You then take the dog away from you know, so the postman realizes that the dog is no longer there. Postman is not scared anymore, comes and then hands the present to your daughter. Your daughter opens the present and goes, oh, stop, wait, listen, yeah, and registers it in that brain. The postman is what Dr. Mike and Dr. Inyang have described as the neurotransmitter. They look like this. They are like relay baton. They are relaying messages. Your postman is like that. They are messengers. They are bringing messages to the brain. So that dog is the genetic reason why the messages are not transmitting as they should. So when you come and take that dog away, you take away some of the genetic factors that prevent the child from getting their present from the postman. Yeah, so those genetic factors, taking away something is you block the blocker. You block the genetic reason why this child is not getting the blocker. Could be medication, the blocker could be what we are discussing, helping people to understand ADHD so they can get their diagnosis. The blocker is managing ADHD, supporting children and young people with ADHD. Okay. So without these messages, children and young people cannot transmit. They don't get the right messages. So obviously, if you're not getting the message to think before you do something, this is where then, if you've got ADHD, you don't have that cue. Those messages are not going to the part of the brain to help you stop and think. So before you realize, you get angry, you do something to somebody, you get into a car accident because you are driving too fast. You get into a car accident because you have your friends behind you. You're probably drinking because you didn't process. Okay. And so many different reasons why people with ADHD will commit a crime, even when they are not attentive. So if you already have the message is not going across and you are inattentive, and now you put on loud music and you're already inattentive, the next thing you do, you've hit somebody, and that is you behind bars. Yeah. And also, they are also very, in terms of stimulation, they are the ones, Dr. Mike mentioned comorbidity. They are the ones who would high risk of substance misuse, substance abuse. They want high risk. They are fearless. That cue to stop them a little bit to think. So they can do things that other people, when they are very young, they can climb trees, they can go hang on the banisters, they are fearless. So as they get older, they will do things as a dare. So what somebody would think around a little bit and step back, they wouldn't. It's the child who would most easily, very easily talk back to their parents without thinking. You have 4 children. 3 of them seem to listen. One does just never seem to listen. You have 2 children. One seems to be, when you tell them to do something, no, they can't sit down. They have to go round and round. They can't sleep. They seem to be taking a lot of your time. Papa, one of the reasons why I thought that we should discuss this is ADHD, we know, is something that people either choose to believe that it exists or not. But the issue is, in our communities, in the Black and minority ethnic communities, it is one of the conditions that we unfortunately choose not to either believe that it exists. We think that the children are very naughty. And also, when, we don't want our child to be labeled, sometimes even the religion kicks in, because a lot of our communities, we go to church, or if we were religious, and so we think that to label our child with ADHD, it's not something that we are putting something negative on them. And then the other side of it is also in certain populations, in certain areas, for example, in London, sometimes these children are also overdiagnosed. So that's the other bit. So they may not necessarily be having ADHD, but because of the circumstances, they might be given a label of ADHD. The other thing is that when it comes to health professionals, we are actually underrepresented as a community. So, if you don't have people who may understand the culture of the child coming through, you might either underdiagnose them or overdiagnose them, okay? And then again, in terms of the underdiagnosis, they might exclude children very easily, children from our communities, and research backs it. We've got high rates of exclusions, high rates of detentions when we're in school, okay? And then there's sometimes a lower tendency to refer these children on for support. I don't know about Mike, but myself and Dr. Tucker, we've basically worked a lot in non-BAME areas. And then let a child whisper. Let them whisper. Let them do something that's a little bit, quickly they are asking them to be seen to see if there's a diagnosis, even though there might not be a diagnosis at all. Yeah? But when you look on the other side, if that child is BAME or that child is Black, yeah, there's a less likely for them to actually say, could it be a biological reason? It's less likely for this cause of the cultural or the background that they are coming from. Hence the reason why the children are being, so the children end up being labeled, these children are not given the support that they're supposed to be supported with. So we've already explained how ADHD occurs. It's a true biological phenomenon that happens in there. If you imagine a Christmas tree, we all celebrating Christmas, and you have beautiful Christmas lights on them. And some of those Christmas lights are not working. This is how ADHD is like. Some of it is working, some of it isn't. Imagine if all the Christmas lights light up. Beautiful. Then you can actually see the potential of that tree. So it is a very important thing. If it comes to research in ADHD in Black and ethnic minority communities, again, we don't have a lot of that. So everything is against us. And it is very important that we as a community understand, read about some of these things, understand if our child for some reason, our children for some reason are not doing well at school, it is very, very important to read, research. We as one-to-one mentoring, we've got the Parent Heritage Program. These are some of the things. We are very blessed to have quite a number of doctors with different specialties on that. Apart from non-doctors, we also have doctors. We have neurodevelopmental doctors like ourselves. We have doctors with anything. Because what the mentoring is about is to help parents identify some of these barriers that can affect their child's learning. And we are actually we are planning to do a workshop for parents in January, and I'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end of the program. So I hope, Papa, I have explained how children or young people and adults with ADHD can easily, the reason why you find them overrepresented, ADHD coming from the Black community, whether in America, whether here, we are overrepresented in the prison system. Overrepresented in the prison system. So honestly, it's time we woke up as a community. And then when it comes to health and everywhere else, that if a lot more of us are in those areas, those institutions, we can help because we understand our culture. But then we are underrepresented. So there isn't any balance. Research, we are underrepresented. And then when it comes to our own cultural beliefs also, that is also a problem. We don't believe in the medication. We don't believe that the child has got something. We think prayer will solve all the problems. I'm not downplaying prayer. Papa, me and, prayer is the first thing I'll think about. But God has also given us wisdom. He said we should be as harmless, isn't it? As wise as what? Serpents. And as harmless as doves. Wisdom. Why do people take paracetamol when they have headache or toothache? Don't take it. Just pray. Sometimes you'll be led to just pray, but sometimes you'll be led to take paracetamol, and sometimes you'll be led to pray and take paracetamol. So we need the balance in our communities because our children are suffering. And we are the ones that will have the key with prayer and at the same time the wisdom to know the things that we need to know so that our children will have better futures. We can't be bigger than our children. Our children should be taller trees. Our children should be bigger than us. Wherever, whatever, and however we achieve, our children should be achieving 10 times better than we should. Anyway, enough said.
enough
My point.
enough said indeed. You
Yeah.
have certainly proved your point. From what you've said, our children should be bigger, taller, more intelligent, in fact more loving, more creative, they should be more understanding than us. So I'm just only imagining how your children are going to be. They are going to be super fantabulous. Yes.
Papa, I'm so sorry. You know me, I don't interrupt. But you know what? You know that research, and this is something, Mike and Inyang, you bail me out here. You agree with, you concur with me. Do you know that research shows that between the ages of 0 to 7, Black children, when it comes to attainment, yeah, they are the top. Then from 7, we don't know why the trend starts changing. Yeah? 7, from 0 to 7. When it comes cognitive attainment, we did a very good show last week or last week.
2 weeks.
And there were teachers on there on our panel, and they did say they concurred. When from the ages of 0 to 7, in terms of attainment, in terms of cognitive, in terms of performance, Black children are up there. Then it starts reversing. And a lot of it is not the genetics. A lot of it is everything else, environmental, support, understanding. And then, of course, if they have something that will be a barrier, like a neurodevelopmental disorder, without the support, they just struggle. Papa, I don't know if these are your dark glasses or if it's got lensing. But for people who are wearing glasses and who wear glasses, whether you are a person of faith or not, please, when it comes to the point where your eyes, you can't see, stop. Give up the glasses. Give it up. Why people don't give it up? They wear it. You wear glasses so that you can see. You wear glasses so you can read. So why are we depriving children with ADHD and children with neurodevelopmental disorders their brain glasses? Why are we depriving them? If we are using glasses to help us, what if glasses were never invented? Glasses have been invented so people can see, people can read. And now science has said that there is a true condition called ADHD, a true condition called autism. So if we now know and we've got the treatments and the management for it, why are we preventing our children from getting the diagnosis and the right management?
You said quite a lot, and you sounded very passionate, appealing in your message. I'm very certain that many people are taking it in good faith, and understanding the fact that the same God that allowed the problem to come is the same God that provides the solution. But the solution comes in many forms. And one of those forms of solution are these very wonderful people that we are having this discussion with. So I'll go to Dr. Inyang one more time. Listening to Dr. Susan, I realized whatever one does, if I'm wrong, please let me know. Right? I realized that there is a biological reason behind anything or everything someone does. Because if the brain is what is moving us, then whatever we do, there should be a biological reason behind it. And we need to research into that as well. But let's talk about you correct me if I'm wrong on that score. The biological reason behind everything that we do. Just come in a little bit on that.
Yeah, so Papa, yes, you are right. And we've all been programmed from the beginning through what we call our genes. So genes are the things that gives us the different characteristics that we have. And we inherit a lot from our parents. And a lot of those things that we inherit from our parents are loaded in those genes. So they're with us from birth. And it's those genes that will be able to, if you have a very smart child, it's already programmed there. If that child is going to be tall, it's already programmed there. If that child is going to have a particular temperament, is programmed there. So we've got the genes there already programmed. Some of the things will be obvious from early. Some of the things take a while to manifest, as Susan and Mike have explained beautifully. Now, there's also the bit called the environment. So we can have these genes, but those genes are expressed in the environment. So there are some things that, although the genetic thing is already there, we also have the interaction of that genes with the environment to help the expression. That is why knowledge is power. Because if you know what to do from the beginning, then you can begin to put those things in place early. And that, whatever the combination that you get, will affect how that child turns out later. So we could all have children with ADHD, with the genes. We could all have those children having that genetic predisposition to have ADHD. But the way we manage those children will affect how they express those difficulties later. So if they're in a household that the family is already chaotic, they don't care, there's no organization, there's nothing, they don't know how to, provide a structure, that child's ADHD will have would be presented in, would be more obvious, more problematic for that child, because there's been no environmental. It's like a cushion. It's like you're driving, you have a crash, but you have your airbags that is there to be able to support you. So having a cushion around that child yes, this child has a difficulty, but the expression is less problematic because the parents are putting all the cushioning. And it all goes back to what Susan said: reading, parents researching, knowing, this is my child, I need to tell them 100 times, this is my child. If I don't get them well organized, things are going to get chaotic. So what do those parents do? They begin to look for things to how to support that child to organize themselves. They begin to put in the things to help support that child, so that the problem does not become more, so that that child, for example, does not turn up to school without their work and gets more detention and gets more problems, and they get more, and the child gets upset more. Now, if you have an organized family, they do differently. So the environment is very important, and that's why we see this a lot. That even in our children that we see in clinic, we will see one who will still have ADHD, but the expression will be mild, and that might be because of the support the child is getting at home and at school. And we will see another child with ADHD, still the same genetic and biological reason in all of them, but the expression might be more severe. So there are different things that affect the expression. So, for example, you might have a gene that, okay, there's a maybe obesity gene in your family, but because you know that, you begin to do things to prevent you developing that problem, because you already know that in my family, this is what we have a risk for. So you begin to do the things, the same thing with diabetes, hypertension. You begin to behave in a way that to limit the impact of that. So yes, there is biological, but we still have a role to play as families. And that's where the familial bit comes in, the environmental bits come in. And that's why, like Susan said, that's why we're here preaching this message to our community today, because our community needs to hear this message. All of us have seen people from our community when they come into the clinic, when they're referred, even the way, the acceptance of the assessment or the acceptance of the diagnosis. There are ways in which It's already ingrained in our minds from the beginning. And the people that we interact with within our community as well. I've had friends where I've suspected their children have ADHD, and the the journey from the child being assessed and diagnosed is also influenced by the community, because they go back and tell their friends and say, oh, they said my child probably has ADHD. And I tell you, the responses from the community is just, sometimes someone would say, no way, no, go to church, we reject it, we bind it, it can never be, it's not your portion. And what's happening in that part, this is real life. What's happening?
You are sounding like a pastor already.
Well, this is the responses from our community. So for 4 years or 5 years, they are binding and casting and rejecting and saying it's not your portion. And then what happens? 5 years of that child's life, or 6 crucial years of that child's life, has been wasted. And then when the child has gone to the stage where he's now following his friends and smoking and doing things, where he's really gone down the road, then the same family start looking for desperate help. And then what happens? 5, 6 years down the line, that child could have been helped. This is where environment comes in. This is where family come in. That child had the gene, but they could have steered that child in the right direction. So the message is, yes, biological, genetic, but we have a big role to play. And this is why we're here.
Dr. Mike, the women are swallowing us. They are taking the field now. They are playing very well indeed.
That's their main role. That's what they're good for.
Now, you see, many Africans, I must say, find it quite difficult, even finding out about their health history. That is what possibly killed your mom, what possibly killed your grandmother, your great grandmother. It's something that we just simply, our own alone, we don't want to know, let alone going to our mothers and then carrying on to generations and generations. And then it brings to mind what Dr. Inyang said, knowledge is power. And lack of knowledge too, you will perish. For lack of knowledge, you're definitely going to be perishing. Let's go to back in Africa a little bit. I know we have Africans here, but even in this environment that we find ourselves, we still have know your portion, and we bind it in this. No. We reject it. We still have it around here. How much more Africa? What basic advice would you give to our fellows all the way in Africa, precisely on this very issue?
Yeah, thanks very much, Papa. ADHD, even though people might suspect or think it's a modern disease that was designed by some people who are trying to sell medications, that's actually not true. As far as record is concerned, by 400 BC, before Christ, Hippocrates already recognized children with similar symptoms. And in 1840 something or thereabout, a German author already wrote a book that he called Fidgety Phillips, with lots of fantastic illustrations of what actually means to be fidgety, to be hyperactive, to be not listening, to be not focusing. So it's not a modern disease at all. It's been there forever. And it's not a white man's disease, on the other hand. It's, in fact, because human beings originated from black man. So we were the origin of all men all over the world. So whatever we are seeing now originated from us.
Mm-hmm.
So ADHD is not a white man disease. It's a disease that originated from Africa. And the limited research that have been done in few places in Africa, because I've tried to get involved with a few research in Nigeria, which unfortunately is not going to plan. But a few limited research that have been done in Africa have shown that the rate of ADHD in Africa is no different from the rate in Europe or anywhere else in the world. Apart from America, America have gone viral. Their one is got, they are talking about more than 12% of children have ADHD. But on average, all over the world, this rate of ADHD is 5% to 7% of school-age children. So it is not a modern disease. It's not a white man's disease. It's not a coined disease. It's not an artificial made-up disease. And it will be helpful for our BAME communities to realize that, like you said, Papa, before, the same God that created us with both the good part and the bad part, the weak part and the strong parts. None of us is perfect in that sense. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. Our weaknesses are different, just as our strengths are different. And the same God who created us in his own wisdom is designed in such a way that we are not ever going to be independent on our own. It means where we are strong, we can use our strengths to help other people who are weak. And where we are weak, other people who are strong in those areas can use their strength to help us in our weakness. So ADHD or any other disease should be seen in that light. If you have a diagnosis of ADHD or ASD or dyspraxia or whatever, that's not the end of the world. That's just an area of weakness. I'm sure if you look carefully enough, there will be many, many other things that you are strong in. For example, a lot of children with ADHD, they are very strong in some things. They can be very musical. They can be talented as musicians. They can run 10 businesses at the same time if you allow them, and they will make profit in all of them. It's not as if they don't know what's going on there or going on there. They are okay. They can run. They are like women. I'm sorry to say, they are multi. They can
Please,
multitask.
please. I won't support you when there's a fight too. Please.
Okay, I know. But some of them, they can. I can tell you that they've got some very fantastic talents.
That's right.
So ADHD is not the end of the world. So if anybody has dyspraxia or ADHD or ASD, just recognize it as one area of weakness. That does not define the entirety of their life. And they should be given as much support as is needed without any fear of contradiction or trying to make them feel as if they are inferior to anybody else. None of us is perfect peace. We are all work in progress. So nobody should be afraid of taking their child to the doctor for assessment and to accept treatment if that is recommended by people who know what they are doing. And nobody should be afraid to allow their child to be put into special educational needs. Because again, that's not the end of the world. It simply means this child has some areas of weaknesses that they could do with some extra support. And those extra support, they have already been paid for, because the government knows that every child that comes to school is not going to scale through like that. So every school is already giving some pot of money to say every child that comes through your gate, if they need extra support, don't even bother coming to ask us. We already put this money for you, because we know a percentage of certain children that are coming through your school, they will need this support. So don't even come by us. Don't come and apply. The money is there for you. Just use it for them. It's only when the money that you have is not enough, then come and ask for more. So if we are not allowing our children to take advantage of the pot of money that the government has already provided, who are we cheating? We are cheating ourselves. And yet we are paying tax. We are putting all this money together. We are paying our money to support the NHS. And yet we are afraid to even use the NHS staff. I think it doesn't make sense at all. So I hope our communities will please take advantage of the wisdom that God has created, the doctors that God has endowed with wisdom. Let's take advantage of resources that we have. And I think it will be good for every one of us that way.
The women are already clapping for you. So it means there is no war. No war. There is no war. We have Antoniella Wendy Owusu also giving you a clap. Thank you very much, Dr. Mike, for such just it's just passionate submission you've given to us over there. We do a last round, and then we can draw the curtain. I know our time is almost up, but we do a last round, and I'll start with Dr. Susan. ADHD. I don't know. Has it got to do with the lifestyle of a mother during pregnancy? That is the dieting, anything the mother will be doing during pregnancy. Is it to do with anything that a mother does during pregnancy?
That's a very good question because I was actually thinking about it, and we've got our expert here, Dr. Takon, who has worked at a national level around this condition called fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And if you remember, Dr. Griselda a week ago, 2 weeks ago, mentioned that we are hoping that we would actually do a dedicated program looking at alcohol during pregnancy and how it affects the growing child's brain. Yeah, so I think in terms of that, apart from genetic factors, if there's anything that a mother does during pregnancy, it is alcohol. Alcohol is one of the main things. And I know alcohol is not one of the problems when it comes to our community, but it could be. Yeah. So substance misuse during pregnancy can affect the child's growing brain. Alcohol during pregnancy, smoking also. I think there's some very good research coming out about smoking. So again, somebody's, oh, we don't drink, but people do a lot of things in secret. You get, so we can't just do generalizations. That's what I'm saying. So all mothers, pregnant mothers out there, just do be careful if you are taking the all drink, but if it gets, in fact, the advice is as much as possible, actually avoid it. I know that it comes with this many units, this amount of units, but how long is a piece of string? So it's avoidance. And obviously other conditions that is not really the mother's fault. So the mother can have some conditions during pregnancy that can affect her child when the child is about to be born. And so, for example, if you have children that are born prematurely, so again, mothers out there with premature babies, yes, they might not necessarily suffer with what we call cerebral palsy, where they have, difficulties with using their limbs because it's weak, but it will start showing later as they get older. It starts showing in difficulties with attention, difficulties with impulse control. So premature babies, though these are not the genetic conditions, these are the acquired conditions, or children who get very bad infections when they are born. So things like meningitis, anything that affects the brain can predispose a child to developing an ADHD type syndrome, where they struggle with learning, they struggle with impulse control, they struggle with attention, they are hyperactive, and what Dr. Mike said, the whole executive function. Now, Papa, I know that now you understand executive function so much because we keep mentioning it and we keep mentioning it, but it's such a huge thing. And psychologists love it. Doctors love it. Doctors like ourselves love it. Psychologists love it because it's the sort of seat of the brain, this executive function thing. If it's not developed, children will struggle. Yeah. So not to make moms feel guilty if their child has got ADHD. If it's genetic, then it can come from anywhere. But in terms of the direct correlation between pregnancy and ADHD, diet, no, there isn't any research showing anything at the moment around the effect of diet on the child. What I would say is that mothers should be careful around stress. Yeah, so it's just maybe sensible advice. There may not be, again, the direct correlation. And also abuse, domestic violence during pregnancy, affecting mothers And again, research is going on around the effect of the high levels of stress hormones, which is cortisol, on the brain of the child. And again, mothers who postnatal depression is one of the things that our community really struggles with, because we know mental health in general, our community struggle with that. So you have a lot of mothers from the BAME community suffering in silence. And if you are depressed when you've had your baby, it is normal, because you are going through so many hormonal changes. And especially when you've had your first baby. And it is so important to talk to someone else. Apart from meditating and praying and getting your spiritual nourishment, talk to friends, talk to your mom, talk to your husband, talk to your GP. Because again, the effect of that, the effect of depression, maternal depression, it will lead to withdrawal from the baby. And then that again can have the effect on the child's brain. Yes. So children's brains, when they are growing, is an amazing thing. And that reflects the greatness of the God who created us. And we need to protect it. Whilst they are protected beautifully in the womb, we also need to protect them especially when they are very vulnerable years, when their brains are developing. So I hope I've been able to answer your question, Papa, about moms. Yeah.
Thank you. You've done that. You've certainly done that. I'll go to you, Dr. Inyang. I said we are all going in just one round, and that's all. But before that, Samantha. Samantha says, "Well said, Dr. Mike." I can see why Dr. Susan is laughing. My Samantha, I miss you. Okay, I miss you. And she's also she's also talking about my glasses. Well, it's my quantum glasses. It's my quantum glasses. It's correcting my glass, and it helps me to look at the screen very well. I look at the screen several hours because of what I do. So I just need to protect my eyes one way or the other. I know now, so I just need to protect it. Right now, Dr. Inyang, someone is asking, how does ADHD affect the love life of people who have that condition? How does it affect their love life? Tell us a little bit about that. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Let's go.
Okay. So ADHD, again, is not something that stops in childhood. It continues onto adulthood. And just the way ADHD can affect not just the learning, it can affect social life, it can affect relationships. People with ADHD struggle to stay on one thing for a while. So if you imagine somebody who has been inattentive, the emotional roller coaster that Dr. Mike described earlier can continue until adulthood. So some people might have partners who have ADHD, but they don't know, because they might have a partner who is constantly angry one minute, might love them so much one minute, might then become angry, might become impulsive, something that they should sit down together and think about as a couple. The partner might actually struggle to do that. So you have this kind of up and down emotions in the relationship. And if you have one partner who doesn't really understand that, this is what my partner, husband or wife has, you can imagine the chaos that can have. And research has shown that people with ADHD do have difficulties with their relationships. They can have multiple partners. They can have even things like sexually transmitted disease is quite common in people with ADHD. It's common because, again, the impulsivity does not make them think about what they're going to do. They might just want that immediate pleasure, and they might just want it just for now and just go on and move on to somebody else. So multiple partners, the risk of sexually transmitted disease, the risk of, they do not have that They do not sit down to nurture the relationship. So you can imagine what all that has on a love life and marriage. There is high rate of divorce in people with ADHD, especially because there are difficulties with them actually sitting down and thinking. Again, even things like financial bits in the relationship. People with ADHD run into lots of financial problems, and that again can impact on relationships. So if you look at the whole thing all round, you find that that child with ADHD who was not treated from early on, who escaped being treated, who then went on, probably struggled with work and was changing jobs, being hired and fired several times. The same behavior can continue in the relationship. So poor commitment, multiple partners, poor relationship, divorce, and sometimes violence. You can have domestic violence within the relationship, hitting, physical abuse, emotional abuse. So all this can impact on love lives. And there have been times where I have seen children where the families, the parents, as a result of the child's diagnosis, recognized that actually one partner had ADHD and could explain the difficulties they've had in their relationships and their marriage. And as a result of that, that partner has gone to get assessed and get treatment. So it can impact on it.
Thank you very much for that explanation. When you were talking about multiple partners, one thing came to mind as Dr. Mike said. People who suffer from ADHD can manage about 10 companies at the same time, right? So multiple partners is also managing many companies at the same time, isn't it? That's right. At first, it sounded quite, scary, but I said, no. Managing many companies at the same time. And truly, what I have come to understand in this world we live in, and I know scientists like you would confirm or affirm to that, energy cannot be destroyed. It cannot be transformed. So if you are someone who runs multiple partners, in fact, you have the potential of running multiple companies. So convert that energy into that area, and then it will certainly be of great help to you. I'll go to Dr. Mike for the last time. Dr. Mike, we are simply rounding up now, and we have let me read this one. Philip Ansa saying, "Wow, so educative. Thanks, great people. Keep it up. Please, we need all the time. May God keep you and bless you all." Thank you very much, Philip. May God bless you too. And we have Antoniella once again coming with a question. I think the question was addressed earlier on, but as we are rounding up, I will ask Dr. Mike to just give a brief recap of what are some of the earliest signs of ADHD in an infant or a young child. I will want you to just do a little recap on that before we allow Dr. Susan to round it up all for us.
Thanks very much, Papa. You are right. We already mentioned that before. I mean, the symptoms are similar that you will see in younger children, like hyperactivity, restlessness, constantly on the go, having too much energy, unable to sit still, full of beans. Some people describe them as full of beans, too much energy, and unable to focus on anything. But as long as they are in their infancy or toddler stage, if they are not negatively impacting their normal daily functioning, we don't necessarily need to make a diagnosis out of that. It's only when they begin to get into danger or danger of people around them, that's when probably it becomes a problem,
Thank you very much, Dr. Mike. I believe Wendy, Antoniella, Wendy, it's okay with with the answer. And we have Nana Kantantaba. He says he's watching us live in Tepa, Ghana. Good. I think do you know him?
I don't, but I'm just so excited that someone in Ghana has, I'm just missing my country so much. So, it's
good,
lovely.
good.
Yes.
I know. This young man from Ponajari, he's an
Yeah,
old schoolmate from Kumasi High School.
I
The
see.
best of all schools you can ever have in Ghana, Kumasi High School. Yeah, he's my mate, and he is in Ghana watching us live. So we have a few people watching us across the globe. All right, Dr.
As
Susan,
well.
I will let you round up
Round up. Okay.
by telling us a little bit about
Yeah.
one-to-one mentoring network, how people
Okay.
can contact you for support. Over to you, Doctor.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for again hosting us on your show. As usual, every 2 weeks we are here. And again, if there are any topics that your audience might want to suggest to you, Papa, let them feel free to suggest topics that they want to hear from us. Because as a mentoring organization, we are one-to-one mentoring network, which is a mentoring organization that really are keen to help to reduce the barriers that affect our communities so that we can fulfill our maximum potential. People can find us on www.12 number two one one number two the number two one one-to-one mentoring.com. And the parent heritage program of the one-to-one mentoring is actually the one that we do about a lot about the education that supports parents and children. So the neurodevelopmental disorders program, which we did 2 weeks ago, and now, which is the December program, is really to support parents. And this is part of the heritage program, which is also part of the one-to-one mentoring network. On the 30th of January, we'll be running a workshop, and it's a fundraising event. So there will be a small prize attached to this workshop. And is a workshop for parents and young people. So not just parents, carers, and young people with autism, ADHD, and a condition called selective mutism. These are children who talk anywhere. They are happy to talk when they're at home, but when they are at church or when they're at school or somewhere else, they don't talk. They do not open their mouths at all. It's a very strange one. So we've got a highly specialist speech and language therapist who will be part of the training. Dr. Mike will be there, Dr. Griselda, Dr. Bajaj, Dr. Inyang, Tosin, whom you've all met, who is a graduate, but who will be talking about ADHD from a graduate's perspective. And then we will have, again, Didi. I'm sure you all remember Didi. Didi was very phenomenal 2 weeks ago when she provided a very strong testimony from a parent with from autism from a parent view. I know Didi, you are watching, and she gave a very powerful testimony. So she will be one of our speakers as well, and that will be on the 30th of January. So I'd like to leave your audience with this visual, glasses. If you all can reflect on glasses and just imagine if we never had glasses, if we didn't have walking sticks, never were invented, hearing things to help people hear, inhalers for asthma, glasses. We take glasses for granted. But just imagine these things were never invented. Even if you take even dark glasses, that's cosmetic, beautiful. People like to be very classy and flashy with them. But we protect our eyes from the sun. And then we use glasses to see. Imagine if these were never invented. Some people will never be doctors? Never, ever. I'm sure, Dr. Mike, you wear your glasses for sight. And how ever could you see if you were in a classroom and you could never, ever see things well? You will not be able to achieve your potential. So the same way with children with ADHD, autism, or any neurodevelopmental disorder, not these children not getting their diagnosis, these children not getting support, these children not made, given the support that they need to get. It's just like they don't have their brain glasses. They do not have their brain glasses. So how are they going to compete with other children ever? So let's all think about it. And if you have a child or young person who you think that their behavior is just so, they are a handful. They are getting into trouble at school. They are hitting their peers. They are coming back, doing all sorts of things. And you've tried and prayed and done everything. Keep on praying. As for the prayer, it will never stop. But perhaps you might need a little bit, that child might need a little bit more support from, as Dr. Mike said, people that God have put in this world to provide a little bit more guidance. And we call them doctors, okay? So please go to your GP, go to your school, go to your teacher, go to your Senko and discuss it. It's not a shame at all. It's not a shame. Rather, it's better for a child to have a diagnosis than be labeled naughty. Yeah, because the naughty, you are naughty, you're a bad child, you're a bad child. At the end of the day, sorry, Mike, abufraboni means naughty child. At the end of the day, it affects them here. And then they will end up believing that they are bad. And then negative ends up even making things worse and then leading to mental health problems. Okay. Today, you realize, Papa, that I'm very passionate, even more about ADHD than autism, yeah?
That's right.
Yeah. I have a lot of time. I have about 500 patients on my books. So yes.
Wow.
And it's one of the largest caseloads per doctor nationally. So yeah, and that's why I have a lot of time for them.
Good one there. When you picked up the glasses, I thought you were coming to talk to Samantha. Mm-hmm.
I miss my Samantha, so don't worry. You are not the only one that misses her. I miss her. Yeah, but we'll get there in the new year. We'll do some of the less health topics, and then Samantha will feature again.
Thank you very much. And to our viewers, our listeners around the globe, well, if you happen to be in United Kingdom as well, wherever that you may find us, so I'm very certain the workshop is it going to be online or
Yes. Inyang is going to be carried on a Zoom Eventbrite. Is it?
Yeah. It will be. Yeah.
Excellent. So it is certainly going to be online.
Yeah.
Papa, I think Inyang was going to say, Dr. Inyang was going to say something.
Okay.
We will put the advert through Eventbrite, but it will be hosted on the platform.
Thank you very much for that information. Please get yourself registered as soon as possible. Just a small fee. Don't go there and try to use the voucher.
Small fee.
Small fee.
The bank.
Small fee.
And it's all going to the charity. It's all going to be to the charity. Yeah, but it's worth it. It's not going to break the bank at all.
Yes. Don't go there and try and use the code Papa Smiley to get a discount. No, it won't work. we need money for one-to-one mentoring network. It is some of these things that if you have resources, if you have funds available, you should use to support. As I said the last time, in this case, your money will certainly be working for you. What you have to all come to understand is everything about us, everything of us is to promote life. Everything of us is to promote life. So if you have the money as your resources, please use it wisely to promote some of these organizations, these activities, so as they will be able to reach more souls, educate them, for them to have that knowledge, for us to be able to move on in this life. Thank you all
Our
for
pleasure.
making today a very wonderful one. We come back next
It's been a
week.
wonderful host. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, he
Thank you
always
very much.
is.
Thank you.
Always.
Thank you,
And
Thank you.
Papa. Thank you.
can we wish all our your audience, the audience, your participants, audience, I don't know, viewers, because we've got viewers as well, and a lovely, blessed Christmas, and hopefully by God's grace, prosperous New Year from us and also from the network, and also to you, Papa. And thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And,
Yeah.
and same to you as well. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy, it's a disaster. To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy, it's a disaster. You may tomorrow be gone, tomorrow